Welcome to Business Cake. These are conversations between myself, Will, and Patrick. We discuss creative work, ideas, and stories, and are often joined by a variety of guests, builders, and founders. In this conversation, we speak with Andrew Thomson. Andrew is a longtime friend of ours, and honestly, he's one of the most creative people that I know. Andrew speaks about authenticity. We talk with him about embracing constraints, how that forces creativity in a surprising number of ways, the importance of finding areas of inspiration that people have forgotten about, that are maybe even obscure, and most of all, about having fun and enjoying the work that you do. Andrew's design fingerprints are all over the city of Birmingham. If you visit there, you're going to see it. This is what I love about what Andrew does, is his work doesn't just stay in a digital format. It becomes things that people interact with, they hold, it's tangible. He's created beer cans, signage, he's worked on parks, he's worked with record stores, coffee shops, and restaurants. It's really amazing. I hope that you enjoy this conversation. Let's dive in.
Yeah, I did industrial design. I actually didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And it really was a process of elimination. I really was like, I actually thought about being an engineer. My sister was like, you'll hate it and you won't be good at it. And then I didn't want to do graphic design because I was like, why go to college for graphic design? Seems like not that sophisticated. Like anybody can learn that probably. So I kind of was down on it. And then it was like, that's not a real job. And then I picked industrial design because it was a little bit creative, but I just had to pick something, you know?
Yeah. And for our two listeners, you do graphic design now, right? I mean, is that
that's
what you
exactly
would call
where I ended up?
Yeah.
The joke's on me. Yeah.
But you were drawn to design. When did you start? Have you always drawn? Have you always designed things? When did that happen?
I mean, you guys remember how like our crew was kind of into music a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Like I used to think music was pretty cool, and I like creative stuff. So I think I didn't really think I would have a future in anything visual at all. And then once I got into it, I really did enjoy it, and kind of I could see myself being like challenged by the assignments and not being like scared of them. Like I was like, all right, let's go, let's do this. Like it wasn't intimidating, even though I wasn't that good. I was like challenged by it. Like I was like, all right, let's see what I can do, you know?
That's kind of a cool aspect of something that you enjoy, is the challenge is exciting to you and not overwhelmingly disheartening.
Yes.
It's a good cue. So then just tie it together real quick, like post-college to where you are. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I feel like you've done so many different things in that world. I'm not even sure I could tell you what you did.
Okay, so I went to work at a industrial design firm out of school. And I remember my professor being shocked that I got this job because they didn't really build me up
because of your grades.
They're like, man, this guy, he's not.
Yeah, they didn't think I was like a winner, and I got a job at this place, and I think it was because I was reading a lot of books about like recycling and like green design, and the boss thought that was cool. And I do have one little soapbox. It's like, I think if you pursue things that you're genuinely interested in, even if it's not like a job thing, for me, I've found that it's always like helped open doors later on. So like I was just reading those books because I was like, this is kind of interesting. What does green design even mean? And then I had this interview, and then me and my boss talked for like 30 minutes about it. And he realized that I had like read them on my own. It wasn't like a school assignment. And it totally helped open that door. And I found that when I got my first graphic design job, so while I was doing industrial design, I got a little bit bored with it, and I didn't feel like I was like that passionate about it when I was actually doing it. And so me and a friend started a kind of a furniture business on the side, and we were just building like like kind of fun stuff, like just like chairs and random stuff and stools
Some cool
and
fixtures and whatnot. I
yeah,
remember
some
that.
light pendants and stuff like that. None of that stuff made really any money. And we would just go to like, you know, those kind of like trade fairs kind of stuff and just like sell our stuff and just meet people and like talk to other people that were making stuff. Like there would be like someone making like leather goods and someone making like pottery or something. You know, you just go to those kind of fairs and like it didn't do anything for me, but I got my first, I think, graphic design partially because I had a little bit of a graphic design portfolio. But then that guy, the guy that owned the company, loved furniture, and so we just talked about furniture for like a while. And he was like, "Oh, maybe you can incorporate that into this business." And then totally, I got the job over someone that only had a graphic design portfolio. Is I feel like if you stick to things that you, first of all, if you stick to things that you care about, you'll be like naturally motivated to do it. And you can't like fake that. And then when you meet somebody that's naturally into it, it kind of like just sparks something, you know, and it just kind of leads to more stuff. So
yeah, which is always kind of scary because people want to be like asking the adult questions, like how's that going to pay the bills, or
yeah,
what are you going to do with that and whatnot. But yeah, follow the passion, follow the enjoyment, something like that.
I think so. Yeah. Cause then
No, keep going.
Oh yeah. So then it led to that brand. It was a job at like a branding firm. And the guy that owned it was kind of this older guy that was really talented. So I felt like I learned a lot from him. He's kind of like a legend in our town a little bit. And so I learned from him a lot, and then went to work at like a bigger ad agency and learned how they structured stuff. And I had another boss.
You're fully graphic design by the time all this stuff is happening.
Yeah, and I have like a total graphic design portfolio now, and I'm like spending all my time doing that and like learning a lot. And then working at this ad firm, learning how they do stuff and structure projects. And I had a boss there that had a lot of experience that was like good to learn from. And then eventually, I felt like there was a little bit of a ceiling to that place and got a little bit frustrated with it. And I felt like they would give raises to people that just had been there for many years, not people that actually did the work that was really helping them the most. So I don't know. So then I finally was like, you know what? I think I could just work for these small businesses that I have relationships with, and that would be enough to like provide for me. Whereas that big company would kind of take on small things just to do some cool projects, and it wasn't really paying their bills. And I was like, I'll start my own thing and try to just line up a couple of these smaller businesses, and I think I'll be fine, you know? And so creatively, it was really good for me to go on my own, because at some point I just didn't need to have like an art director. It was really good to have an art director for a certain number of years. And then after that, I needed to just be the final creative answer on stuff. That was like the last step, was to like be the final stamp myself and not have someone else change it at the last minute, you know? So,
yeah.
Did you work towards that pivot point, or was it a sudden thing where you took the risk and you said, I'm going to go out on my own? Like what was the process?
I think it was me even just looking at how many years I'd been at this ad firm, feeling like I'd kind of like won them awards and done cool stuff, and then realizing I hadn't gotten a raise and just being like, this is kind of weird, you know? And then feeling like creatively, I probably need to stop complaining. And like, if you know, like at some point you're like, man, I wish they didn't change my design. You know, it's like, at some point it's like, all right, well then you need to start your own thing and then see if you can sell the client on it yourself, you know? And so I think that was really healthy. I think if you ever get to the point where you're like grumbling a little bit, it's like maybe that's just you needing to grow, you know, and you need to take your own risk, because it's easy to complain in someone else's business, and then it's like, well, you know, that is their risk that they took. So why don't you take your own risk, and then you can do whatever you want, you know? So I think that there was a little growing pains, and I needed to take that step.
No, I like that. The discontent will force you forward in your
Yeah.
own way.
And
I like
I think there is a real complaining feeling that you're like, this is messed up. Like I'm in a messed up situation. But I do think like in order to experience a change, you might have to take that risk. Like you can't forget that the company that is paying you a salary it's their business, you know? So I think at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if what you're really saying is you need to try it yourself, you know?
So how has that risk been for you? Like since you took that step till now, is that a regular occurrence on risk, or has it been up and down? Or
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like it was a slow process. Like my first year, I did make enough where I didn't make like less income than I had at that firm. I made like barely the exact same salary, you know, but you don't really launch a business to just barely make the exact same as a place that you were frustrated of not getting a raise at. You know what I mean? So it's not really what you want, but it was good to have not dropped. I think if I dropped, I would have been really discouraged, you know? And, but yeah, it was very slow in the beginning. I would do way overwork on a project that I wasn't billing that much for because I had extra time and I just needed my portfolio to look good. So I would bill the bare minimum that I thought that they would pay. I would do like double the amount of work that I promised I would and just overperform because it's like, what else am I going to do? This is, in a way, it's like marketing, you know, for myself. And, and then gradually start building up clients. And then one time one year I kind of like got a big project that I was pumped about. And I was like, once this is out in the world, this will be a game changer. I'll get like the same. It was like a big baseball park municipal project. I was like, after this, I'm going to get a municipal park every single year and like explode. And like, I didn't get another one for like 3.5 years. So that kind of shows how sometimes you think, oh, this is going to take off. And it does. It's just a gradual, it can be like a slow growth thing.
it sounds like most of your work is like project based, where they'll come to you with a specific thing and you do that, and then maybe they'll come back, maybe they won't.
Yeah, like some clients
and referrals, right? I mean, word of mouth and
there's a lot of I really don't right now. I don't market myself, so I don't actually do like too many like cold call stuff at all. And so I do get a lot of people like knocking on my door now. I probably have only done a few reaching out cold call things my whole time. But I have done a few and some of them have worked out. But I guess that those municipal big projects, it just takes a while for like cities to be in a place where they want to spend on that. So in some ways it's like they've seen the things out there. I just have to be kind of patient for the next one to come around. And then I think I will actually do some promotional stuff. I've just been a little bit like swamped. Like I have had enough things like knocking on the door that I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now, but yeah.
You could do a mailer campaign where you just put stuff in people's mailboxes and, you know,
probably not. No.
All right.
Are you being serious?
No, I was not.
Okay, no.
The municipal park. What did you do for them?
So
graphic design in my head is virtual, right? It's mostly digital stuff. But with your industrial design background, you do this. A lot of the stuff that you do turns into physical, tangible, real world things, right?
Yes. Like I do think that's been my focus and something I kind of have specialized in. Cause like I started out doing like beer cans for a brewery in town, but those are physical things. Like the can is a real, product. And so I have to do like press checks and all that kind of stuff. So I've definitely tried to stay in real packaging. If I do a restaurant, it'll be like real signage, real interiors. And then like that municipal park there was like the naming and the branding of it, but then it turned into a big signage package, wayfinding, murals, like the physical experience of it. And some like market, like doing the website too. But I feel like, yeah, I love physical things. Like I even for my Instagram and my online portfolio, I try to mostly, not all of it is, but a lot of it are photos of real things. That's one thing I try to do with graphic design is try not to put out too much like digital art, but take a real photo of a real can or a real sign, just because that means that somebody like invested in that to make it. I just think there's something more substantial to like products,
When they have to look at it every day, so they better like it.
They better, and it better sell on the shelf,
Have you ever made something that just totally bombed?
That's good. I mean, I've done projects for businesses that I thought were pretty successful branding projects, but sometimes the business does not make it. Like there was a restaurant, and like 3 years later, COVID really hurt it. And it ended up having to close its doors. I don't think it was like the brand tanked it. Now y'all are looking at me.
They were doing so well until that rebrand.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of something that was like okay, well, actually, this was a big deal. This was a big mess up I did. And COVID saved me. And I remember it. I was like scared. So it's like the client that's like one of my bigger clients, this brewery, right? And they had this clever idea of one of their beers is like a very, very dark beer, like a some kind of stout, some kind of wintry, like
imperial Russian,
double imperial,
coffee house porter. No.
Yeah, coffee porter, double hit, double chunk,
double chunk,
double chunk porter, and double dipped, and so I was their clever idea was, we're going to keep the same barcode that this double chunk has. And in the summer, we're going to put out a super light, fruity, like the most chill beer, like bachelorette party beer you've ever seen with the same barcode. We're going to switch them seasonally. And so Publix won't even know the difference. And they'll see like the product like spike in the summer and then spike again in the winter. And they don't realize we're like changing the barcode, or the barcode is the same, but it's a different product. This was their idea. I didn't know what was going on. And anyway, they just told me over and over again. They were like, we love this design. They were like, make sure you use the barcode of that double chunk, double porter, stout, double stout. And I was like, okay, yes. And we were using these old files. I didn't work on the original file for that thing. And I like searched in Google. I was like, dear Google, where is double chunk? And and I used it. I checked it so many times. I was like, barcode, numbers, barcode, numbers. And I was like, good to go, double check. Stop asking me, triple checked it. And then I get this call out of nowhere, and the owner's like, what the, just like freaking out. He's like, what did you do? We have warehouses of these things, and they're saying it's not scanning. It's not the same one. I was like, and I went back and I checked it, and the file that I used was apparently old double chunk, came in both a can and a 22-ounce bomber, which is a bigger bottle. Oh, yeah. And I had used the barcode of the bomber that they didn't even sell anymore. And so they were so mad at me because they were like, someone has to go in the warehouse and like put a sticker over every single can with this thing. And then I can't remember what happened, but then COVID hit like the next week and nobody remembered it. There was something like that. But then I think one of the sales guys just told, they found a way, and Publix was like, it's fine, guys, we'll change our SKU, and it turned out to be okay. But I kind of messed up big time.
Dude, that's funny.
That is a nice time for COVID to hit, because everything halted for 3 months or more.
There is bigger,
And so
bigger
that took the
things
heat.
to get mad about.
Man.
Yeah.
Dude.
Saved me. COVID saved me.
And people were buying beer because they were just sitting at home with nothing else to do. So it didn't matter.
I mean, so the brewery broke even on packaged things spiked, and then bar sales obviously went to zero. So they kind of came out about the same in a way.
Sure.
It's because they do lose a lot on the restaurants.
Wow. Well, thanks for airing out that big semi-mistake that worked out well.
Yeah.
What's a project that you've worked on that was like your favorite thing to do, whether you got paid for it or not? Just like one of the fun ones.
I do have kind of like a favorite like moment. It's kind of like So I worked on while I'm doing like projects for like bigger companies. It's like paying the bills and stuff. I was helping out this record store in town that I feel like is one of the cooler places in Birmingham. The guy that runs it just has a lot of connections in the music world. And it's just like a really nice guy and just cool. And I feel like they have like just established like a cool brand. I did not do the branding at all, but I'm kind of friends with him. Is this going to air? I hope he doesn't hear this and then think we're not friends, but I think I'm friends with him.
We'll give him some free ad. What's the record shop name? Go buy a record.
It's called, it's called Seasick Records. And anyway, is it
at 5 Points?
No, that one is it's in Avondale area. The 5 Points one has closed. It's a cool one. There was a cool one there. Yeah, it was sick.
Okay.
But this is better.
This is Seasick.
Seasick, I think, is better, to be honest. But anyway, I got to design one piece of merch for them. So I feel like their merch is well done. That's like one of the cooler things in Birmingham. And I got to design like a hat for them, just like a simple hat, you know. But little things like that are rewarding to me, you know, just to see someone wear it, you know. Yeah. And so anyway, couple months later, I go see this comedian. And do you guys watch a little bit of SNL lately? There's a guy named what's his name? Something Austin Johnson or something like that, but he does the Trump impressions.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he does pretty good with those impressions, I feel like, and he's a pretty silly guy. But anyway, in the summer or the spring, he was doing like his own little tour of the country, you know. And so I went to go see him in Birmingham, and I thought he was hilarious, you know. And he's in SNL right now, which I think is kind of cool, you know. And so I went to just say hi to him afterwards. I was like a fan, you know. I was like, "Hey, man, good job," you know. And I was wearing that hat with the S on it, and he was like, "Dude, where'd you get that hat?" He was like, "I just saw Wilco in Nashville, and the bass player was wearing that hat, you know." And they had just played in Birmingham, so I know that they went to Seasick. And I mean, the guy probably gave it to him for free, you know, and like he probably wore it once and threw it in the trash, you know. But anyway, the comedian saw him wear it, and it was just like this moment of like me talking to like one of my favorite comedians, and then we're talking about this band that I love, and then something I worked on like was part of it, and I didn't even tell him I designed it. I didn't say it in the conversation. I was like too embarrassed, but it was just, to me, it was like cool to know that was part of it, you know.
That's awesome, man. Making something and putting it out there and people love it like that.
Yeah, it's like if just one person that you think is cool likes it, it's enough. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think Wilco's awesome. So the fact that they liked your hat makes me think we should have you on the business cake. Just going to design in general, we've talked before about the difference between formal training and winging it.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people go to school and learn these are the rules.
Ooh.
And then when they produce stuff, that's what they do. And then other people like don't know the rules. Right? You remember that conversation we had?
Yeah. No, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on people that are like, well, you're breaking the graphic design rules when you created that thing for this?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it's like both are good. Like, I do think it's good to learn the rules. Like my first graphic design job, the boss had a very strict style to that firm, and did things a very certain way. I do think in general it's better to learn on the job than it is to learn in school. So I definitely just believe that in general. But the first place I worked was like very modernist, had like a tight grid system for everything. They would only use like 10 typefaces almost on everything. Like, and it was a very classic modernist style. So they pushed like concept over just having like a new flashy typeface, you know? So it forces you, the more constraints you have in design, the more it forces you to be creative in a surprising way, I think. And it forces you to really like think how to, like, for example, let's say you do a poster and you're only allowed to communicate with one typeface. You're only given two colors, and you need to communicate a feeling, a vibe, a brand. Now it's like, what am I going to do? It actually opens all these doors. So I have found that to embrace constraints, I think, is good in design. But I do believe, as far as like me going out on my own and like no longer having someone have like, this is the way, you know, I do think that there's something about like, you need to remember to like have fun and like, don't be scared to like try stuff, you know? Like, I do think you can put yourself in a box too much of like, am I scared of criticism in my own field or something like that? You know, am I scared of like, taking a risk with this illustration? Like, people are gonna, I think there's too much sameness because people get a little bit scared.
Yeah.
So I do think, standing out, like, here's just a random example, but like Liquid Death, you know, is like, if you were going to do like, do a pitch and say, and like, do research on, you know, what does the water market look like? Everything's blue. Everything looks like smart water. It looks like a million different versions of smart water designed by AI. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not scared of AI, is because all AI can do is crank out another smart water that just looks like everything on that shelf. You know, it's almost like those people have AI in their brains anyway. So what's the big difference? They're just doing the same thing everyone's doing, the same way a computer would. But like, who's the guy that's going to say, I'm going to literally draw like a skull dying on a black background and call it Liquid Death is the name of and we only are selling water. We're not selling beer. We're not selling spirits. We're not even selling seltzer at first. We're literally selling water in a can and calling it death. You know, like, to me, like, no computer can tell you
this
to do
is the
that.
healthiest drink on the earth for you.
Yes.
And we're going to associate it with all this like
in that market,
death,
with that healthy conscious stuff.
Yes,
like, no AI can tell you to do that. No algorithm can tell you that's going to work. So like, I guess when you say like break the rules, like, and that's my opinion, like, they used a good typeface. The illustration was correct. It wasn't bad graphic design, but I do feel like you can't be scared. Like, I do think it's like, take a risk, or why are you even doing this? You know?
Andrew, what are the things that, I mean, as we have gone through your story, as you've shared some of this stuff, you've talked about risk and courage and being afraid of certain things, but like, for you personally, where have you dealt with fear and you've had to like overcome that as you are creating or working? Like, where does that come up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I always get a little bit scared in the beginning of every project. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I always am like, oh shoot, am I gonna make them happy this time? You know, it's like, you can have so many things where you feel like you made someone happy over and over and over again, and then you start a brand new one and you're like, they don't care. You know, it's almost gonna heighten their expectations. They're almost gonna want it to be even cooler than something else they've seen. So I do feel like, in the beginning, I can feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, you know, but I do feel like once I kind of get into the research, and I usually just surround myself with just stuff I like. And so I'll look at like, I think one thing I think is good advice for designers is like, it's okay to be inspired by your peers, but I think you need to remind yourself of stuff you like that's like very old or very like different, or like find like an illustrator from the 30s, you know, find like some random like German architect, you know, from some random period, get his book and be inspired by, you got to be inspired by something. Like, don't be scared to be inspired by stuff, but try to like draw from something no one's drawing from, you know? And I think that'll come out. And be true to what you like. And I think that'll come out too. Like, find like the, you know, like I was even like looking up, like my niece and nephew are over and I have like, what's that Disney channel or that dumb like streaming thing they have? It's like, what is it? Disney Plus or something? Yeah, some dumb thing. Yeah, some dumb thing like that. And no, I'm kidding. It's such a waste of money. I don't watch anything on there.
They actually have a lot of good shows that aren't just for like little tiny kids, you know?
I'm sure they do. But no, I'm kidding. But
Goonies.
But anyway, we were looking up like the original super old little cartoon shorts that probably Walt drew himself, you know? It was like before Mickey was really Mickey, you know?
Steamboat Willie.
Oh my gosh, Steamboat Willie is sick. So I was like watching these things and I was like, my mind was blown at some of the choices in the illustration, like some of the bizarre things, like someone's eyes like popping out and exploding and then coming back in, like their legs like jumping out and then like going into their body. And I was just like, what the heck, Steamboat Willie, you're blowing my mind right now. So I'm just like, it's like, you know, then it's like maybe instead of Liquid Death, I come up with like Steamboat Death, you know, and I have like Willie's eyes like popping out of his brains, you know, but it's like, I'm getting that inspiration. It's not coming out of nowhere, you know, it's like, I think it's great to be a student of things. Like, it's like, but be a student of something different than what your peers are, you know, try to be a student of something else, you know?
So who have some of your influences been then, if you're saying other people need to do that besides Steamboat Willie?
Yeah. Golly, so good.
So good.
I've got some books downstairs I need to get out of my library. I'm trying to think. There's definitely, you know what I do look at a lot? This is like a little secret. I love to go on eBay and just search for like baseball pennants, search for maybe like matchbooks. But I'll search like vintage matchbook restaurant on eBay. And then it'll pop up and it'll be just the most random 1920s like bar and lounge from Florida. And like, I love that. And I'll say, I have so many photos of so many random. The thing about eBay, which is better than Google, is that people take really nice high-res pictures of all this stuff because they want to sell it. And so I'll just download every single photo and they'll be like front, back, side. It's like everything I would want if I owned it. It's like, it's better than owning it because I don't want all that junk. You know what I mean? And so I love to like, definitely like baseball pennants. I'll search vintage, you know, whatever. And then there'll just be some random illustration that'll pop up out of nowhere. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's incredible.
So maybe might not be like one designer, but it's like the ongoing research, just see what's out there, stay inspired.
I mean, there are designers I like a lot. I mean, like in industrial design, it was like Dieter Rams is a famous industrial designer. He's well known, so that's not like that obscure. I'm trying to think of graphic designers. There's definitely like I don't know. I mean, I don't know, dude. I do like some of that Americana stuff that I don't always know who did it, you know. But
Norman Rockwell.
Who was that guy we were talking about the other day that did the Bob Dylan colorful hair?
Oh,
poster?
yes. Yeah, he's awesome.
Because you and Sebastian, I think, both liked him.
Yeah, he's awesome. Now that we're talking about him, my mind went blank.
Who knows?
Just a second.
Dude, just on old school stuff, I was with a guy today who owns a bourbon distillery.
Milton Glazier.
That's who it was, yes.
Yeah, he's great. He's classic, yeah.
That's not who I was with today. Well, he there's this old brewery in San Antonio, and I don't know where he came across it, but he came across one of their they didn't private label anything except for one time, and it was like 1890, and they did private label of a beer for a Pullman coach. So the Pullman coaches on trains, they were the nice cars, and like it was like a bar and restaurant within the train.
Oh yeah.
And so they contracted this brewery in San Antonio to make a beer, and the only place this beer was served was in the Pullman coach. And and he found the label somewhere and just has it. I don't know. I don't know if it was but thinking about being inspired by old stuff, he draws a lot for his distillery from that kind of thing, and he does it really well. But that was something that it was like a badge of honor for him to have found that. But
that's it. There's one guy that I do love that I have his book, and I just forget his name, but Tom Eckersley is this guy that was like an English modern kind of illustrator dude, but he's really good. I like him.
From a creator's point of view, you referenced AI, but how do you think about the fact that like anybody with or without AI, there's so many creators out there just making stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, 50 years ago, you could like make a good name for yourself, and it's like there are a few players, and that's true of music. It's true of a lot of different art fields, but I mean, particularly, what you're looking at, do you feel like at some point you're just fighting against like the noise or the current, or how do you think about that for creators in general?
I mean, part of me, I don't know, like digital art, there's like proliferation of digital art. I do think for a company to choose a design and put it on a can is more rare because there's the risk of the marketplace risk to it. And so that is not as overcrowded as just like Instagram world. You know what I mean? Like Dribbble is like an online, database of designers. So Dribbble might be covered with millions and millions of stuff, but part of design is working with the client and talking them into selling them on the thing. So there's not like millions and millions of amazing restaurants. Like there's some, but every city probably has a handful. Even like the coolest cities there are. If I look at like what's like the greatest branded spot in Atlanta, there are like really cool spots, but it's not intimidating number to me. There's maybe like 20 that I think are amazing. There's like 100 that are just good, so like I always think you can push the limit on the things that are built, produced, printed, that become real. I think is still rare, And
it's never going to go away to where that stuff will not need a creator behind it, putting thought and intentionality and originality into it.
I think some of that is also like it's also the specificity or constraint. So Andrew, you were talking about constraints earlier and how that helps with creativity. But if you have all these designers on Dribbble are just making whatever. Yeah. And so, but if you have a specific client from a specific town who does this specific thing with food.
Oh yeah. It makes the work different.
Yeah. And they're asking you, then it's like your constraints are built in and you're drawing from, okay, what's around here?
Like for example, in Birmingham, there's a coffee place called Cala Coffee. And the owner lived in California and now he lives in Alabama. So the name is just simply a combination of CAAL. And so me having that brief, it's like, okay, like that, how many people in Dribbble have that brief? Like nobody, And then not only that, it's me working with him and his personality for him to sign off on this stuff. So that's a challenge in itself. Not a challenge, like that's part of the fun of it. But not anyone is going to know him and then get their bag printed and out there and sold. And then is it a good coffee shop or not? That's what opens the door for more and more years of collaboration, is they have to actually make good coffee, so like I want to label something that is a good thing. The label, like that's one thing I do look out for, is like I never want to work with a client that has a bad product, because then they associate my, visual cue with a bad experience.
Have you turned clients away because of their stuff? Or just like not pursued it if they reached out or something?
Yeah, I've kind of tried to avoid, or like kind of just price it out of, but I definitely pursue the ones that I'm like, okay, they actually are selling something I believe in, because I just want people to think, okay, I ate this food and it was awesome, and this was the mark. Because in some ways, all branding is just like a visual cue for an experience, and you start to associate it with that, So like the stuff that you love, maybe you associate it with your high school years, like Billabong, you associate that style of a t-shirt with like being a kid and going to the beach or something, And so like that style means something to you just because of like your history.
I love it. It's optimistic too. I think what you're saying is there's a lot of room for people to become creators. Yeah. Don't stop.
Oh yeah.
All right. Another serious question. What about pricing?
Yeah. I mean, as I've grown, I've priced things higher, like where
every time. Every time.
Yeah, I do. Like, for example, like that hat for that record store, like I didn't go hard on that hat. You know what I mean?
Okay. But you got good organic marketing from that hat. Wilco.
Nobody even knows I did it. So it probably was just a fail, but it was a meaningful thing. No, but like, I mean, it's like, it's not rocket science. Like when I did like that baseball park, that was a significant financial thing. And like, I know where the significant financial things are going to come from. And you can just tell if you're talking to, a guy that's like starting a little coffee cart versus a guy that has 6 stores. And I just price them different. You have to price them a little bit different. Like you just kind of do. And I don't think I don't think that's bad, because in some ways they're taking more. It's kind of like being a lawyer, and you're counseling someone to make bigger decisions when it's a bigger financial design risk. So you're counseling on a bigger case, And so if you're just helping your nephew out with some silly little legal thing, the stakes aren't that high. You know what I mean? Like it just is different. So
have you had clients that were like, dude, that's way too high. I can't believe you do that. Like I can't believe you're turning that bid. Like we're never going to talk to you again.
There's been some that were just, it was too much, which is fine. But I've never charged someone that I wasn't, I
mean, did they negotiate down, or they just like run away from you?
There's been like maybe a couple that run away, but that's totally fine. It's not a big deal. It's like,
okay.
Like it's like like the price gradually has increased. Yeah. And so I'm only charging things that several people have recently said yes to. So I'm not, it's like, hey,
yeah,
like
I'm thinking more for like creators that are starting out, or like they've been in for a while, and always trying to figure out pricing, and you don't always know your client's budget. You have no idea.
No. Yeah.
So it can be daunting to try to put a number down on paper, and then you send it off in an email, and it's like you have no control at that point of what they think about you.
So for example, like a restaurant, like that is going to be very significant. That's going to be very significant to that. Wait a minute. Every time when I touch my earbud, it turns a podcast on. So I had like a podcast blaring in my ear. I don't know what I'm doing.
Would you rather listen to that than record this? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's just like I'm like getting hit from all sides. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I was talking about pricing. Yeah. What was I talking about? I was talking about.
You said restaurants are going to be.
Yes. Okay. So they're going to, a restaurant moving into a new space. Okay. Let's just take that example. Yeah. They're going to have to hire an architect to do certain things to even get permitted permitting for the contractor to do whatever they got to do. Then they're going to spend a decent amount on the contractor building stuff, building the kitchen, whatever. So they have a budget. They have to have a budget, right? And then, so basically you're saying like, you should invest this percentage on this because of how important it will be to your business. If you're not willing to treat branding as an important thing, then maybe I'm not the right guy for you, you know?
Right.
If you don't value it the way I value it, then I'm not your guy, you know? So I think you kind of, like, I price it based on knowing how significant it will be to their business, which I think is fair, you know? So like if you see something is going to make them a lot of money, if it's done well, then you're like, okay, I can't just charge you like $300. You know?
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, you've obviously figured it out. You're doing well.
Yeah.
And you've never made a mistake on that side.
Well, no. Yeah, but it's like, okay, for example, if there's like a friend of yours that has a coffee shop and they're like, we're going to do like a little like latte art party.
Wait, what about a friend of yours that's starting a podcast? And
yeah. So yeah, like I don't know.
I mean, just hypothetically, how much would you charge for a logo for the podcast?
If it's not the Ringer, you know what I mean? If it's not the Ringer, it's like, is there gonna be 5 listeners or 10? You know,
2.
No,
I'm just joking. Go ahead.
But I mean, again, that's what I would think about. Like if the Ringer called me, it's just different, you know, because you just because that's like a multi-million-dollar business, you know, and so I think it has to connect. Yeah,
more people are going to see it, but I mean this is the art of pricing that you have to think about the audience,
right?
That you like that's on the other side there. What are they gonna like? What is the value for them of this thing? And so how am I gonna make that priced in a way? Because if you price it too low, then there's like a band, a threshold. And if it's too low, then it's not valuable for them and they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. So you have to, in some situations, be able to price it at what you may feel like is high because it hits where your audience is, where they are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
What's the name of your company?
So it's called A Studio. So like the joke is like, a studio that works, or a work or hire a studio, you know, let's say stuff like that. I thought that was funny when I started it.
So if people wanted to see your stuff on Instagram, they just go to A Studio. Is that your handle?
A Studio .work. So A Studio .work.
Okay, cool.
Not instead of .com.
No.
So what is such as?
So yeah, that's like me and a friend, like kind of like in the midst of doing client work, client projects. It has been really refreshing to just design just for fun and just do stuff, just like totally random stuff, and actually see people buy it is kind of fun too. I was actually telling my friend, we were at like a pop-up at like a farmer's market and selling hats to people. And some people would be like, oh, that's sick. And then some people would be like, what the heck is this? You know? And it's like, I was like, this is the closest a designer gets to being like a stand-up comedian, where like you tell the joke and like you see in real life, do they laugh or not? You know what I mean? And I think there's something about just standing there behind all these hats and shirts and you literally see their little eyeballs and like, do they go to it or do they quickly look away? You know what I mean?
Business Cake is produced by Sound Ops. The music is written by Philip Cusius, and this is hosted by Will and Patrick. If you enjoyed it, please rate us 5 stars wherever you find your podcasts.